Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ramadan Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Healthy Muslim in Ramadan. I want to explore today the question of energy. You'll say, energy in Ramadan? What energy? This is a huge paradox, because we discover in Ramadan, through fasting, extremes of exhaustion and extremes of elation. And I'd like to explore with you how time management is, as well as the management of the balance of your food, is essential in getting the optimum, not only out of Ramadan, but out of your life in general. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was an expert at time management. He was always busy. And he showed 4 principles of time management, which are exactly those recommended by experts today. Make the best use of all available time. Values drive your priorities when you're planning any activity. You must have a policy about time. You can't just wander from one thing to another without any idea of what you're doing. And you must complete your projects in the time allowed. That means you must know how long the projects will take. All of this requires thought and discipline. Many of us go through our day in a whirlwind of incompleted tasks, projects that are half done, promised activities that never materialize, what might be called benign chaos. That was not the life of the Prophet, and we must learn from him. In Quran, the concept of time is mentioned very clearly in several situations. In prayer, it's interesting that there are instances where in Quran Allah swears by time. In Surah Al-Asr, he says, Wa al-Asr, by the token of time. Asr, what a mystery. I'm an old lady, and for me Asr is an important prayer, because it comes at a time when there's not much left of the day, where if you want to get stuff done, you better be very clear now what it is you have to do before the sun sets. And the rest of the prayer focuses you on your priorities. It says, verily, man is in loss. The prayer is telling me, I've wasted my life. I don't need to be reminded. Except for those who believe, do righteous deeds, and support one another in truth and good deeds. So, for those like me who are limping, it's wonderful, but the time is the issue. The time tells you, I'm not here forever. I'm here for a limit. There's another time, by the morning hours, al-duha, and the night when it is still. So Allah is telling us each time of day is very special, and it can be a metaphor for our life, meaning the totality of our life, but also how we experience different times of the day. The prayers of the Prophet give us a glimpse of the fact that he was always busy. This was not a man to waste time. And we know that the Prophet didn't like criticizing people. He was subtle. He wouldn't greet a man who was sitting doing nothing, but when he found him busy, he would greet him. That was his way of making a statement. In Bukhari, it says very clearly, the majority of humanity is at a loss, as they do not recognize the value of two of God's gifts. One is health, and one is time. We waste time. Time is the most precious thing we've got with our health. We think we're infinite. We're not. We're here for a very short time. And it's so easy to realize that we thought we had plenty of time to achieve what we thought we would do. And time is running faster than our intentions to achieve the projects we have to get done. Schedule is intrinsic to Islam. We have a prayer schedule. Each prayer is different, but each prayer is at a very described time, some more precise than others. And these anchored points allow us the discipline of time consciousness. So you'll do so much before Zuhr, so much before Asr, so much between Asr and Maghrib, and so on. And this is really useful. The Prophet follows also the Prophet David, where he says, the best nightly prayer in God's sight is that of David. He used to sleep during the early part of the night, wake and spend a third of the night in prayer, then sleep a little before dawn. So this tradition was common to other faith traditions, and particularly other religions of the book. I thought, coming from Catholicism, it would be easy for me to pray 5 times a day, because in monastic Catholicism they pray 6 times a day, so I can drop one prayer. Isn't that easy? But of course I wasn't a monastic Catholic, I was an ordinary Catholic, and I didn't pray 6 times a day, which is a good thing to do. The companions did not sleep after Fajr. Now it's quite important to realize why. This was a really happy time of their day when they socialized. The Prophet valued this time. There's a hadith where it describes sitting together with a group of companions and remembering God with them after the morning prayer until sunrise is more valuable to me than fighting in the cause of God. That was the Prophet's statement of how much he relished being with his family after having prayed Fajr. They didn't creep back to bed. This was a time when they were fully energized. After talking and laughing and having an animated, easy time, maybe with a bit of reflection, a bit of teaching, when the sun had started to rise properly, he would then have breakfast, if there was any food, and he'd then work. At noon, he'd have a nap. He'd have noon prayers, and then work some more. After Asr was family time. After Maghrib was food. After Isha was sleep. What do? We watch television. Television didn't exist in the time of the Prophet. I really would be very interested to know what he would think of it. The point of time management is to make us very conscious of the maximum benefit of what we can get from the existing time that we're having, and be very conscious of the time that we're wasting. Dawn is another the other fascinating thing about dawn in Islam, that was the time the armies set off to march. They didn't go to sleep and then wait for the sun to be half up and, 9 or 10 o'clock, which is when or 8, 9 o'clock when we might be going to work. They set off early because that was the time they were maximally on message and happy. I think exploring in Ramadan how we might, on a permanent basis, change our relationship to waking time, I think would be a very interesting thing to do. During the day, we want, obviously, to exercise. We will have spent the night sleeping. And I want to explore the different ways in which, with fasting, we might pace ourselves with the understanding that later on we're going to totally change the way we use time. Please come back after the break. Welcome back. I want to explore more about how we balance our energy during the fasting state. I've just explained to you how the Prophet paced his day and how the early Sahaba used the time after Fajr to a community benefit. This was the point at which they were maximally lively, awake and chatty. This could be the time, and this might seem a little radical to you, this could be the time when people who want to get fit might consider doing their work on their treadmill, pushing weights, going to the gym, because given that it's summer at the moment, you're going to have an interval between Fajr and when you're expected to turn up at work. And this is the time when you're fully hydrated, you've got your food, and you're going to want to exercise your body. You were too tired after iftar, and maybe you didn't have an opportunity at that point because you wanted to go to the mosque. After iftar, of course, would be another time when exercise is good. But I think first thing in the morning, especially for children, it's good to let them kick a football at that time, go for a run on the beach, it's cool. If there's a beach near, of course, but make that an activity time. Time management and exercise, energy management is essential during Ramadan. Normally we just manage our time. Now you also have to manage your energy. Immediately after Fajr, you're going to have plenty of water in your system, plenty of food. You're ready for anything. You're fine. It's normal. So all the things that need doing that day that involve energy, do it now. Don't crawl back to bed. Stay up. Do the housework. Do the preparations for food that involve lugging stuff out of the cellar or heavy work. Clean the house with the heavy stuff. Do all of that before your body starts to get tired and the real problem of fasting, the dehydration and the low blood sugar, before that kicks in. So time management is essential. When you go to exercise, is also what type of exercise you're going to do. Remember, there are two kinds of exercise. One is aerobic, meaning you're breathing heavily, you're running, you're making your pulse rate go fast. The other is exercise for strength. And in exercise for strength, at its extreme, you do slow weights. In bodybuilders, this is what they have to do. They don't want aerobics. They want to eat a lot, and they want to make all the calories go straight into the muscles. So to build the muscles, they will do a movement, loading it, carrying a weight, but that movement will be incredibly slow, meditatively slow. So to flex your arm can take you a minute. To put it down is another minute. Now, interestingly, in some parts of the world, that type of exercise is a religion. And we see how using the body in its perfection of fitness, is in itself a worship. And so maintaining proper fitness is incredibly important. Hunter-gatherer man, I am sure, was never fat. The last of the remnants of hunter-gatherer man were in the 1880s. These were the people who did not know that there was anyone else on earth. And they didn't spend the same night in the same place. They went from place to place. They were incredibly fit. They could run up mountains. They could run all day. We know from the traditions of the Greeks, it was nothing for a person to run a marathon. That was easy. For us, it's something you have to train for. For them, it was every day. The Kenyans are particularly good at this because they've had to run. It's been part of their life to herd animals and to run long distances because the vegetation is very poor. So they have to follow the animals, which are fitter than humans are, and to follow them they have to run. So man can be fit in a number of different ways, but to maintain that fitness, the best time probably is immediately after suhoor and after fajr. That probably sounds radical, but try it. Then, having tried it, how about making it the way of your life? Because you have the example of the Prophet and the Sahaba. Now, through the morning, you'll be able to work. Life will be fine. Then, look at the wisdom of the Prophet in his normal daily life. In his normal daily life, he took a nap. In Spain, it's called a siesta. It's a very common part of every culture. It's kind of been lost in our traditions, and I think that's a pity. Most workplaces allow you to have a break in the middle of the day. And some people rush off and do the shopping for the evening, and they make that break a work time. But maybe we should think very carefully about what that break really should be. It should be a break, it should be a rest. And during that time of rest, you can curl up in a corner. In many offices, people just put their head on the desk, they go to sleep. Sleep scientists have shown that 40 minutes sleep as a nap is equivalent to 2 hours of sleep. I'll be talking later about sleep, but that's an important fact to remember. So your nap in the middle of the day is an empowerment, because you'll find yourself, in spite of fasting, recharged just because you've managed to sleep a bit. You may find yourself really needing that nap because, depending on the length of time you're fasting, you may actually not get enough sleep at night. By the time you've had iftar, if iftar's at 9 o'clock at night and then you pray, you may not be home till 1 o'clock in the morning, and suhoor is at 3:30. So you're getting 3 hours sleep at most, if you're lucky. So that being the case, you're going to need that nap in the middle of the day. And it's probably best to have it then, because you'll get a second wind to be more effective through the afternoon. Otherwise, you'll just be on a steady decline, and your energy won't last out until the Asr prayer, until hopefully you've got to the end of your working day. After the Asr prayer, again, what you do in time management will depend entirely on what your work schedule is, whether it's employed work or domestic work, and the length of your fast. This is the wisdom of Arabia versus fasting in Europe, where we have a cycling pattern of fasting, with short fast during cold weather and very long fast during our somewhat milder but nevertheless warm summer months. During the latter part of a fasting day, if you've been up since 3:30 in the morning, I suggest you're going to be tired. And I think you need to plan to be able to sleep at that time. Women, notice, it means you've got to have done your cooking in the morning, because by the evening you're going to be very, very tired. People who are going to work, you can kick the kids out and have them play in the garden while you're cooking before you go to work. I'm aware that everybody multitasks these days. We have complicated lives. But thinking that you can completely change the pattern of your day is not only sensible in terms of physiology, it also follows in the footsteps of the Prophet. And therefore, I believe it would be a good thing to try. The other thing about time management is to know when your brain will be at its optimum. Immediately after a big meal at suhoor, it won't actually be that good. So if you want to do serious thinking stuff, don't bother to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be good at planning, good at running around, good at multitasking, but you won't be good at thinking. You'll have a full tummy and you'll be a bit mellow, a bit chilled. The thinking time will be at its best late morning and after your nap. So you can tell your boss, who is not Muslim, that he should not fear a workplace in which people are fasting. We had a controversy in the newspapers recently where some health and safety people were saying that Muslims who fast should not be allowed in the workplace at all, because they might be a hazard to other people, and indeed a hazard to themselves. Whereupon the Muslim Ummah said, tell us what instances you've got to back that theory, because we've lived this fast for the past 1,000 years or more, and we haven't found that to be true. If you pace yourselves, you will not give your workmates any cause for anxiety about you or anxiety about your performance as a work companion. I hope this advice has been helpful. Assalamu alaikum.